Hey guys, welcome to Armchair Conversations with Rob. This is part two of an ongoing series of thoughts from the Retro Notebook. I talked a little bit in one of my videos about the fact that we used to have a lot of armchair conversations growing up, but I also got interested in philosophy classes back in the day when I was first in college and began to write a little bit and write down thoughts and ideas in an old notebook. And so basically we're going to go over some of those things. It's kind of, how could I put it? Using some of the things that got you where you are, kind of dance with who brung you type of philosophy. But anyway, today we're going to talk about goals, okay? And we're going to talk about outcomes. And the two actually in some ways are good to work together. They're not absolutely synonymous, but basically goals can be defined as outcome. Because, for example, everybody can set particular goals on things that they want to do, things they want to be, things they want to have. But sometimes when we get a result or an outcome, we don't equate that with the goal if it's not exactly, a match. But any outcome is positive for you because you can use it as a learning experience. So goals and outcomes kind of go together in terms of getting what you want. Um, I talked about 5 things in my notes about effective outcomes. And the first one was stating the outcome positively. And what I mean by that is um, try not to use negative phrases and words in your goal statements, mission statements, etc. Like, for example, instead of saying, I don't want to be late, the operative word in that statement is late, and also the don't isn't really heard by your subconscious, and there'll be more on that later. We'll talk about that someday when I really get rolling on that. But the don'ts and the won'ts and the will nots and the haven'ts and the hasn'ts, all of that stuff is really kind of like superfluous to your subconscious. It just kind of out there. And so the operative word in that statement was late. And so therefore, you've said it out loud, which means you're going to think about it and you're going to be it because the subconscious doesn't take the negative article. So you're going to probably end up late more often. So we want to speak positive outcomes. We want to say things like, I would like to be on time, or I would love to be on time. Or we don't want to say things like, um, I don't want to have to do this anymore. We say, I want to have something better. I want to have a nice job. I want to have a nice car. I want to have whatever. You get the point. Okay. Number two is the same as number two was in my ask portion of how to get what you want type deal, which is being specific. Um, State your outcome specifically. It doesn't have to be absolutely spot on to the T. What do kids say these days? On fleek. Really? Anyway, um, it does need to be specific though. Like, for example, I might want to say something like, I would like to be at least 15 minutes early for every appointment. Okay. Or I would like to have X model car. Uh, for me, Jaguars are nice. I've always wanted to have one of those. I've driven a few and I liked them. I always wanted to have one anyway. Number three is have an evidence procedure. So in other words, you have to have some specific things that are an indicator to you that the goal is on its way or been met. So you develop an evidence procedure. And so let's say if I want to accumulate $10,000 30 days hence of making this statement, and I want that money to come to me at various points during the interim from my job, then you have an evidence procedure for that. You look and say, okay, so in order for me to have an evidence procedure, I would need to make X number of dollars a day at least to get there. And then you start to notate it, do the math, and look at it. And that would be your evidence procedure. One of the quickest evidence procedures you can have for setting goals and reaching outcomes is your feelings, though, because you kind of want to imagine and visualize how you're going to feel when this thing is met. And that's going to bring us down to number 5 in a moment, which is making sure this is what you really want. So number 4 was be in control. Now what that means is your goal should not require everybody else to change and do and move worlds, okay? Because let's just get real. You are important and special, but you're not more important and more special than anybody else in the world. You may have more money, you may have more power, less power, but you're just on the same keel, par with everybody else in terms of goals and outcomes. Your goal should not require other people to change. If your goal requires other people to change, it's something that you need to maybe reconsider at least. Because, for example, if your goal is for somebody else to stop smoking, okay, you don't really have as much say in that as you think you do. You can push, you can pull, you can manipulate, and you might get them to do it. But if it's not internalized to them, they're not going to continue. Got me? So therefore, you do the same thing and think the same thing about your goals. Your goals that you set for yourself and for outcomes in your life should not require other people to change. If they do, you may not achieve those, and you may have to, what they say, fish or cut bait. You may have to cut bait. Your goal should not require other people to change. Now, number 5 is make sure this is what you really want. So that brings us back around to the evidence procedure and how you feel. You may think, and this one is poignant to me and everybody else who likes to have nice things. You may think that that Uber car or a certain amount of money or a certain home or living in a certain neighborhood is going to make you feel awesome. But when you get it and it doesn't, then what do? So make sure it's what you want. Try to think about everything that goes along with it too. So, yes, you may want the new Ford. I don't even know if they make Escalades anymore, but the new Ford Escalade, okay? But you may not like it as much when you have to pay for the tires, when they need changed, or maybe the maintenance is high, maybe it goes a lot of gas, maybe it doesn't handle the way you thought it was going to handle. And so therefore you have to kind of make sure it's what you really want. Now, I'm not dissuading anybody from having things that they think they want, and maybe it doesn't turn out that way, but I am trying to make you aware that it is okay for you to want something and then change your mind once you get it. Um, it may not be fun, okay, because you may be stuck with the car payment or stuck with certain thing that you can't just toss out the window, but make sure it's what you really want. Um, I can't stress that one enough, because we all have things we think are going to make our lives better, and we have to remember that they're things. They don't make our lives better. We do. So, if you want the money because you think it's going to make your life better, and then you don't have the knowledge and skills to use it effectively or to hold on to it or generate it more than once for yourself, then you may not feel the same way about that goal later. You think that the fancy car is going to change your life and everybody's going to love you now. Well, what happens when the fancy car breaks down? Or what happens when the fancy car is no longer the it thing? When you get that special fashionable piece of clothing or shoes or purse, and you think that somehow that's going to change your life, you got a sad thing coming, because things go in and out of fashion like weekly these days with the trends and the internet and everything else. So, quick recap on effective outcomes and goals as far as 5 things that might help you is: 1, state your outcome positively. Number 2, be specific about exactly what it is that you want. 3, have an evidence procedure. I really need you guys to think on this one because, again, you might be surprised. 4, be in control. You be in control of your goals. Goals should not require anybody else to change except you. And 5, make sure this is what you really want. So anyway, short and sweet, taking some pages from the retro from my younger days of writing and thinking. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that it helps. If it doesn't, then keep going, keep playing, and find something that will work for you. In the meantime, thank you for sharing my armchair.